Hello and welcome to PMCLounge.com. Today we will be discussing the first process of communications management knowledge area, that is the plan communication management process. As always, if you're into reading articles, first link in the description will take you to a related article on plan communication management process over at our official website pmclounge.com, so do check that out. Also, second link in the description will take you to a playlist which will contain every single video that we have ever done on the communication management knowledge area. So two important links in the description, check them out and let's get started. So if you're feeling lost, let me remind you where we are. The knowledge area that we are covering is communications management knowledge area. The process group that we are talking about is the planning process group. And the process that we are talking about is plan communications management knowledge area. This is the PGKA mapping, the process group knowledge area mapping of communications management knowledge area. And as you can see, we only have three processes here. The first one is what we are covering in this video. Like I mentioned previously, second link in the description will take you to a playlist where you'll find every single video on communications management knowledge area. So check that out. So let me introduce this process to you. Now, if you see the PGKA mapping, you'll realize that across all knowledge areas, the first process of the planning process group typically talks about putting a plan together. For example, in the scope management knowledge area, the first process of the planning process group is going to be plan scope management. For schedule management knowledge area, it is going to be plan schedule management. For cost management knowledge area, it is going to be plan cost management. So similarly, in the communications management knowledge area, the first process of the planning process group is going to be plan communications management, whereby you are putting together a communication plan. Now, when you're doing so, you need to make sure that the information requirements, the information needs of the project stakeholders are taken care of. Additionally, you also need to understand what kind of organizational assets you have at your disposal, right? And what are the needs of the project communication as well. So these are some of the things that you need to consider when you are creating the communications management plan and you're performing the plan communications management process. A few other points to note here is this process, the plan communications management process, it basically documents the approach to engage with the stakeholders, ensuring that they have relevant information available to them in a timely manner. So you're basically documenting how you're going to achieve this feat. Now, this process is performed periodically throughout the project. So this is not a one-time thing where you perform this process and be done away with it, right? Which makes a lot of sense, right? Because you have to communicate throughout the project. It cannot be a one-time activity. All right, before we move further, I'd quickly like to remind you all our PMP courseware articles and videos are available on this link, pmclounge.com/PMP training. Everything's free. Check it out. All right, so communications management plan. This is the most important output of the plan communications management process. If you look at the inputs, the tools and techniques and outputs, we have actually covered everything over at pmclounge.com. So the only thing that we should be covering in this video is the most important output, which is communications management plan. So let's try to understand when is this created. So typically it is developed early on in the project life cycle. So this is something that you do when you're kicking off the project, right? When you're just getting started. So it is reviewed periodically. Obviously it has to be reviewed because as the time passes, the communication needs of the project stakeholders may also change. So this change needs to be documented in the communications management plan. Finally, the plan also documents how the communications will be planned executed, and monitored. So this is actually the most important function of the communications management plan. How do you how are you going to plan the communication? How are you going to execute that plan? And how are you going to monitor how well the communication is happening across the project? All right, so let's look at the content of the communications management plan. So first of all, it is going to contain templates. Templates for sending minutes of the meeting, be it your status meetings or your team meetings. It can also contain templates for sending out general notifications. Notifications like, let's say your project has just completed coding and you need to send a notification out to the broader audience, letting them know that coding is complete. So what kind of template are you going to use while sending this notification out can also be present in your communications management plan. Not just that, right? The requirements, the communication requirement of these stakeholders will also be defined in detail when it comes to the communications management plan. So you will have what kind of information, what type of information need to go to whom, right? What language should it go out in? The format. This ties closely to the templates that we spoke of in the previous point. The level of detail. So let's say you want to present your project status to the CXO executives. The level of detail needs to be a very high level, right? It cannot go into minute details. But when you're communicating the project status to your team members, your own project team, then it should be highly detailed, right? The distribution frequency. So your project team might actually welcome if you send out the project status twice or thrice a week. That's actually something that they may appreciate. But the CXO executives might not appreciate it. They might want the status of your project only once a week or once every 2 weeks. What are the methods and technologies to be used? Now, of course, most of us are going to use emails, but then there are projects that require written communication, right? That require memos, that require the use of press releases, that require the use of even social media technologies, right? So whatever the methods and technologies that you plan to use to make communication happen across your project should be a part of your communications management plan. And not just that, we have the escalation process that is also part of the communications management plan. Who is the team resource who is responsible for communicating the information, right? Sending all these emails out, sending all these memos out. Who is the team resource responsible for it? This person's name is also present in the communications management plan. What are the time and budget that your project has allocated for communication? Specifically for communication, this is process of updating the communications management plan. So we spoke of previously in the previous slide that the communications management plan, this document also requires to be updated, right? This document also needs to be updated based on the change in the information requirement of the stakeholders. So what is the process that you're going to use when you want to update the communications management plan? This process is also detailed in the communications management plan document itself. Glossary of common technology. Raise your hands. Let me know in the comments. How many times has it happened to you that you are sitting in a team meeting and the team members are using certain abbreviations, certain short forms of technologies or words or processes that you're totally unaware of? How many times has it happened to you? For me, it has happened like hundreds of times. So if you want to make sure that this doesn't happen with other team members and everyone knows what is being talked about, what is the topic of the discussion, then having a glossary of the common terminology, the common abbreviations, right, the common short forms is going to be very helpful for everyone. Flow charts detailing the flow of project information, right? Where does the project information go when it reaches the development team manager, right? It could go to his or her higher management. This needs to be detailed out in the flow charts that are present in the communications management plan. And finally, if there are any organizational policies across communication, right, across the project communication, that should also be listed in the communications management plan. So I hope this slide is clear. It provides all the details of everything that needs to go in as part of the communications management plan document. All right, so I hope you got value out of this video. Smash that like button. It helps us stay motivated and create more free content for you. Subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon if you haven't done so already. Also, don't forget our official website, pmclounge.com, your number one free PMP resource. Thank you.